What if the thing keeping you broke isn't your salary? What if it's not your spending either? What if it's something happening inside your brain every single day that nobody ever taught you how to fix? Here's what I mean. Right now, somewhere in the world, two people are waking up to the exact same morning. Same alarm, same kind of job, roughly the same income. But one of them moves through the day with a quiet confidence, making decisions clearly, sleeping soundly at night, unbothered by the small financial surprises that life throws at everyone. The other one, they're exhausted before the day even starts. Not from work, from the constant, invisible weight of financial anxiety that never fully goes away. Same life, completely different experience. The only real difference between those two people isn't luck. It isn't a trust fund. It isn't even how much they earn. It's one number sitting in a bank account. And before you assume I'm about to tell you to invest in crypto or start a dropshipping business, stay with me, because this isn't that kind of video. The number I'm talking about is $10,000. And what it does to your mind, your body, your confidence, and the way you move through the world is something most financial content will never take the time to actually explain to you. I'm Daniel, your financial guide on this channel. I don't talk about money the way most people do. I talk about the psychology behind it, the science of it, the real human experience of what it actually feels like to go from financial survival mode to financial breathing room. If that's something you need right now, hit subscribe, because this channel was built for exactly where you are. Now, let me paint you a picture of what life looks like on both sides of that $10,000 line, starting with the side most of us know far too well. You're at the grocery store, and without even realizing it, you're doing math in your head. Name brand cereal, $5.49. Generic, $2.99. You grab the generic, not because it tastes better, because $2.50 matters right now. Your friends text about dinner. You spend the next 20 minutes inventing a reason not to go, because you can't admit that $25 for a meal would wreck your entire week. This is the paycheck-to-paycheck reality, and it is not just uncomfortable. It is mentally destroying you, slowly, quietly, every single day. Every financial decision becomes a survival calculation. Every unexpected expense feels like a catastrophe arriving in slow motion. You're not building anything. You're just absorbing hits and hoping the next one doesn't knock you down for good. And here's the part that most people never connect. The financial stress you're carrying isn't just hurting your bank account. It is physically changing how your brain functions. Scientists have measured it, and what they found should alarm every single person watching this right now. Keep watching, because this is where it gets real. When researchers studied people under chronic financial stress, they found something extraordinary. The brain of someone who is constantly worried about money operates differently, almost as if it's in a permanent state of low-grade emergency. Decision-making gets slower. Creativity drops. Emotional regulation weakens. You become more reactive, more irritable, more short-sighted, not because of who you are, but because of what financial pressure does to the human brain. And the worst part? You don't even notice it happening. You just think you're having a bad day, a bad week, a bad year. But what's really happening is that financial stress is quietly consuming the mental energy you need to actually change your situation. Now, here's where $10,000 comes in, and I need you to pay close attention here, because what I'm about to tell you is the opposite of what most people expect. When you hit $10,000 in savings, the first thing that changes isn't your lifestyle. You probably won't buy anything different. You won't move to a bigger place or drive a better car. The first thing that changes is your nervous system. Researchers have found that financial security measurably reduces cortisol, your body's primary stress hormone. That means $10,000 doesn't just change your bank balance, it changes your biology. It quiets the part of your brain that has been running on high alert, scanning for financial danger every single moment of every single day. That orange check engine light comes on, and instead of your stomach dropping, you just think, I'll get that sorted this weekend. That shift, from panic to mild inconvenience, sounds small, but it sets off a chain reaction across your entire life that most people never see coming. You sleep better, you think more clearly, you make better decisions, you show up better for the people around you, you stop reacting to everything and start actually thinking about your future.
One number, $10,000, and your entire operating system upgrades. But here's what nobody in personal finance talks about, and this might be the most important thing I say in this entire video. Stay with me. Most of the power of $10,000 doesn't come from spending it. It comes from knowing it's sitting there. Financial experts call this the emergency fund effect, but that name undersells it completely, because it's not really about emergencies at all. It's about something far more valuable, the psychological freedom that comes from knowing you could handle one if it came. And here's the plot twist that will genuinely surprise you. People who build a $10,000 emergency fund almost never end up spending it on emergencies. You want to know what they actually spend it on? Opportunities, education, launching a business, relocating somewhere better, investing in themselves. Because when you're no longer white-knuckling your way through the month, you can finally lift your head up and actually look at where your life could go.
There's also something that happens to the way you carry yourself, the way you negotiate, the way you walk into a room. When you have money in the bank, real, accessible money, you stop operating from desperation. And desperation, whether you realize it or not, is visible. Employers sense it, people sense it, and it costs you in ways you can't always measure, but absolutely feel. $10,000 in savings doesn't just change your finances, it changes your posture. And that confidence, that quiet, unshakable knowing that you will be okay, opens doors that broke people simply cannot walk through. Now, I want to talk about the part of this journey that most financial advice completely skips over. Because if you're sitting here thinking $10,000 sounds like an impossible number, I need you to hear this next part very carefully. The reason most people never reach $10,000 isn't income, it's identity. Most people treat saving like a temporary diet. They cut everything back for a few months, save hard, burn out, and slide right back to where they started, because they never changed who they believed they were. They just temporarily changed what they were doing. But the people who actually reach $10,000 and then $20,000 and $50,000 after that, they made a quieter, deeper shift. They stopped thinking of saving as something they were doing. They started thinking of it as someone they were becoming. That is the entire game, right there. When saving becomes part of your identity, not your discipline, not your willpower, your identity, everything changes automatically. You notice things you never noticed before. Expenses you never questioned suddenly feel wasteful. Extra income opportunities start appearing everywhere. You naturally start thinking in years instead of weeks. And here's what makes it genuinely exciting. It gets easier every single month. Saving your first $1,000 is hard. It requires real sacrifice and real focus. Your second $1,000 is noticeably easier. By the time you're pushing toward your sixth or seventh thousand, the process feels almost effortless. Not because life got easier, because you got stronger. Let's talk numbers for a moment, because I want you to see exactly what $10,000 actually protects you from. And the list is going to be longer than you think. Car repairs. The average automotive emergency runs between $500 and $3,000. With $10,000 in the bank, that's an inconvenience, not a crisis. Medical bills. Most unexpected health issues, urgent care visits, ER trips, minor procedures, fall well within this range. You're not covered for major surgery, but you can handle the vast majority of what life actually throws at you. Job loss. This is the one that terrifies people most. And $10,000 gives you something that no amount of positive thinking can: 3 to 6 months of genuine breathing room. That breathing room is the difference between accepting the first desperate job offer that comes along and actually being selective, taking your time, negotiating, choosing the right opportunity instead of the only opportunity. And it doesn't stop at protection. This is where it gets genuinely exciting, because $10,000 doesn't just shield you from disaster, it starts creating possibilities that simply didn't exist before. That certification program that could add $10,000 to your annual salary but costs $2,000 upfront, without savings, it's a dream. With your foundation, it's just math. That friend launching a business who needs a small investor, without savings, you can only cheer from the sidelines. With $10,000, you have a seat at the table. Options, real, tangible options. That is what $10,000 actually buys you. And options are something that people living paycheck to paycheck simply do not have access to, no matter how smart or talented or hardworking they are.
Now let's talk about something that personal finance content almost never touches, but every single person watching this has felt at some point in their life: the social weight of being broke. When money is a constant source of stress, it doesn't stay in your bank account. It follows you everywhere, into your friendships, into your relationships, into the way you see yourself. You start avoiding social situations because you can't afford to participate. You pull away from people, not because you don't care about them, but because the embarrassment of your financial situation feels too heavy to carry in public. You develop a quiet resentment toward people who seem more financially stable, not because you're a resentful person, but financial stress does that to people. It narrows your world and makes you smaller than you actually are. Your relationships suffer. Study after study cites money stress as one of the leading causes of divorce and family breakdown. When you're drowning in financial anxiety, there is simply nothing left over for the people who matter most. But here's the reframe that I want you to sit with, because this one will stick with you long after this video ends. The person with $10,000 saved is actually closer to financial independence than someone who earns twice as much but saves nothing. Read that again. Let it land. Because the most valuable skill in wealth building isn't earning money, it's keeping it. You know people who earn six figures and are somehow always broke. Expensive car, designer everything, $20 salads, zero savings, always one unexpected bill away from panic. And you probably know someone who earns far less, but has quietly and consistently built something real, because they understood something that high earners often don't: that income without intention is just expensive survival. Reaching $10,000 is a masterclass in that intention, in that discipline, in the mindset that separates people who talk about wealth from people who actually build it.
Let's talk about something called decision fatigue, because this is one of the hidden costs of financial stress that almost nobody talks about, and it is costing you more than you realize. Every single day, your brain makes thousands of tiny financial micro-decisions: name brand or generic, lunch out or pack something. Is this worth it or not? Can I actually afford this? Each one of those decisions burns real mental energy, and by the end of the day, you're not just tired from work, you're depleted from the constant grinding calculation of whether you can afford to exist. Now here's what happens when you have $10,000 in the bank. Around 90% of those daily survival calculations disappear, not because you're suddenly rich, but because the baseline anxiety driving them is gone. You walk into a grocery store and you choose what you actually want to eat, not what you can technically afford. And if you have never experienced that feeling, I promise you, it hits differently than you expect. I know someone who told me the first time they went grocery shopping after hitting $10,000 in savings, they almost cried, standing there in the cereal aisle, not because they bought anything extravagant, but because they realized for the first time in years that they were choosing freely, not calculating, just choosing. That is a level of freedom most people don't even know they've lost until they get it back. And when that mental energy comes back, you start noticing things you were too stressed to see before. Your insurance renewal is coming up and you actually have time to shop around. Your phone plan is overpriced and you can switch without the switching fees sending you into a spiral. Small wins, $50 here, $80 there, but they stack and they accelerate everything that comes next. So how do you actually get there? Especially if right now $10,000 feels like a mountain you can barely see the base of. Here's the truth, and it's simpler than the finance industry wants you to believe. The most successful savers I know didn't start with big numbers. They started with $25 a month. Some started with less. The size of the first step doesn't matter nearly as much as the fact that you take it and don't stop. Because here's what consistency does that willpower alone never can. It builds the identity, month by month, deposit by deposit, until saving isn't something you're forcing yourself to do anymore. It's just who you are. Here's a number that might change your perspective completely. The average person spends over $3,000 a year on coffee runs, dining out, and convenience purchases. Not rent, not bills, just the everyday, automatic, barely noticed spending that disappears without a trace. Redirect 1/3 of that, just 1/3, towards savings, and you will have $10,000 in under 3 years without dramatically changing your life. I'm not telling you to stop living. I'm telling you that most people have far more flexibility in their financial life than they've been led to believe. And the moment you start to see that clearly, the moment awareness kicks in, everything begins to shift. The difference between someone who builds savings and someone who doesn't is almost never income. It is almost always awareness, and you now have it. So let me leave you with this. $10,000 is not a number that makes you rich. It is not a flex. It is not a finish line. It is the foundation, the breathing room,
The moment your financial life stops being something that happens to you and starts being something you actually direct. It is sleeping through the night without that low hum of financial dread. It is walking into a job interview without quiet desperation in your eyes. It is the mental space to finally think beyond this week and start building toward the life you actually want. It is becoming the kind of person who has options when the people around them have none. And the most powerful thing I can tell you, the thing I want you to remember long after this video is over, is this. The person you become while saving your first $10,000 is worth more than the money itself. The discipline you build, the identity you grow into, the way your mind starts to work differently around money, that cannot be taken from you. That is yours forever. Start small, stay consistent, and remember, every single dollar you put away is a vote for the version of yourself that doesn't panic anymore, the version that plans, that builds, that moves through the world with the quiet confidence that comes from knowing, whatever comes next, you will be okay. I'm Daniel, your financial guide, and if this video did something for you today, subscribe right now, because next week we're going into what happens after $10,000, the next milestone, the next shift, and trust me, it is worth staying for. I'll see you in the next one.